On today's episode of the Glue Guys, we are going to strangle the NBA and rip out its, what's the thing?
Jugular.
Esophagus?
Get him in the jugular.
Rip out their jugular.
Yeah.
We're going to Swayze the rest of the NBA because the Nets are back, Brian.
Start of the show.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Taylor Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BK Glue Guys. NetsDaily.com. The Athletic. Get yourself behind the paywall at theathletic.com/glue guys, a subsidiary of the New York Times Company. Brian.
Michael.
The Nets are back.
Properly.
What the fuck?
Just a complete soundboard. You unleashed
Yeah, I
the
know. Hot take.
The Nets are back, Brian.
Like, we did it. Have they, you asked, potentially somebody asked, have they ever been more back than this? Is there more back than this back? I don't think we've ever been this back.
The NBA better watch out, Brian.
Yeah.
This is the revenge tour.
Yeah.
This is Nets World Revenge Tour 20, almost 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, are the Nets have on it? So this is the longest win streak. We are recording this on Tuesday, December 27th. This is the longest win streak since the Nets have been in Brooklyn. Since I think I read in NetsDaily.com when Jacques Vaughn was a backup point guard for your New Jersey.
Okay.
Nets.
Whoa, throwback. My gosh.
What is it? 9 games in a row? 9 games, Bri?
Right now it is 9 games. Yeah, it was funny. I was just hate watching some like undisputed segments with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless from after they had won, after the Nets beat Golden State, the undermanned Golden State. They're like, who cares? This is all fugazi. Still fake news until they start beating good teams.
Yes.
Now what are you gonna say, Mike? Now what are you gonna say? Steamroll the Bucks, steamroll the Cavs, kinda.
It was a proper rolling. I mean, it was close. There was Darius Garland was electric. Sure, Kevin Durant fouls out with 2 minutes left, 151 left in the game,
which was the only time the crowd really popped in Cleveland. Which was, says something about them. It's low quality fan base. It's a direct shot at you guys. But I will also say the Bucks game wasn't a direct steamroll either. And for both of those, I'm kind of glad because you could chalk up like they had a weird night. I saw in one of the power rankings, Bucks lost to some bad team like by
the Bucks
points.
have been a little bit shaky lately,
and I didn't want to be part of that. Like, it's just a weird night. Who cares? Wasn't a weird night. They were playing Bucks basketball, and we just we ended up steamrolling them at the end with just applying so much pressure, Mike, just hitting them from every angle, and they had no responses. And in the Cavs game, that was kind of they flipped the script there a little bit, but still in both cases competitive. Up until certain moments, but no excuses. You can't make excuses about this. That was a systematic win, on both cases.
I remember us talking before the Warriors game, looking at this 3-game stretch of Warriors, Bucks, Cavs.
You didn't even say that the possibility that we could go 3-0 on that. You didn't even mention that.
I think I said if they go 3-0, it's going to be Dancing in the Streets.
You did.
Martha Reeves, jubilant, just pure. I think I maybe just made a quick mention, but I didn't even consider it a possibility. I did not. In my head, I was like, "There's no way. Like there's no way they would go 3-0 on this stretch." We were not full believers. We had a conversation. It may have been on that same very show, where I asked you some pertinent questions, like the 6 most important questions about the Nets. And one of them was, can you have championship expectations? And we both agreed that we needed to see them stack dubs against the elite of the NBA. Okay? There ain't that much more elite to be out there at this point. They dominated your Milwaukee Bucks. They thoroughly handled the Cleveland Cavaliers in the land of Cleve.
In Loudville. That you see, they kept cutting to this one shot of the free throws, and there was a section that was just called Loudville that's sponsored by Budweiser. I was just thinking, who is the lazy, marketing department that was just like, I don't know what I call Loudville. Who cares?
Loud land. I mean,
Yeah.
your
Right.
city already has land in the title.
Even that's low hanging fruit too, and not good. But even that is a a notch above Loudville.
shot at me.
Loudville. No, I'm saying.
Feels
Yeah, I
like
mean-
a shot at. And Mike Smelt's
So-
right there.
So
Not very good.
I mean, spend another minute or two on it, Mike. You got this.
Yeah, I think I can figure it out. This is an unqualified or a very qualified Netsessance. I mean, this is the purest Netsessance that we've ever been living in this podcast time. I mean, this is truly historic what is happening with your Brooklyn Nets. Are they going to win the championship? I don't know if they're going to win the championship. They have firmly thrusted themselves into the championship discussion. If you pull up your podcast app and you listen to your favorite shows like Brian Windhorst or Zach Lowe or the Athletic NBA show, you will find an increasing amount of Nets conversation about basketball. The Nets leading all of those shows because the Nets are the hottest team in the NBA. One of my favorite places, cleaningtheglass.com. Everyone loves that. It's an analytics website from a guy who used to be like the head analytics guy for the Trailblazers. What you can always do is you can go onto the team rankings in terms of points per possession, effective field goal, turnover percentage, offensive rebounding. There's all these different metrics that it does, and you can just look up who are the hot teams. You can filter the stats, and I did it so for December. The Nets have the number one offense in the NBA right now, in the NBA, over the month of December, over this massive winning streak fueled by Jacques Vaughn.
The only month that really matters in the NBA season, let's be honest.
Yes. The current NBA.
Yeah.
They are 12th in points per possession on defense. They turn over the ball at an elite rate. Their rebounding rate is actually like getting better and better, and there's been a lot written about how Jacques Vaughn challenged all the players about boxing out and all that stuff. They foul a bunch of teams. They do foul, but they are 12th in defense, number one in offense. They are third overall in the league in terms of differential between points per possession they get on offense, between points per possession that they give up on defense. They are elite as they are in the NBA. This is an elite NBA team. You don't get to beat the Bucks by 18, beat the Warriors by such a degree that they need to tie Jerome and Patrick Baldwin Jr. to shoot the lights out to even make the game kind of competitive. And you don't beat the Cleveland Cavaliers when you don't have Joe Harris and Seth Curry, unless if you are an elite team in the NBA. You're looking at, Brian,
Okay.
one of the best stretches of basketball we've seen since they've gone to Brooklyn.
I don't think optically it's been like it's especially good. I mean, like there's just, even back to I would say the only other pinnacle of this period, like KD Kyrie period, was the Boston Celtics series where they actually won that series 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not last year's. That's the only other time we looked like, oh gosh, like I think we could really steamroll just about anybody. And then also I think there's a bunch of things kind of being passed around in the wake of all this of just like, I think we're destined to talk about Ben Simmons in this one very particular way, which is that like optically there's something off, but then like if you go into the advanced stats, he's one of those guys, and those guys are always going to be just fodder for internet debates. And the advanced stats that are coming out about Ben Simmons, like, when he's on the floor, they, best defensive rating off, all it comes ratings, Mike. We get into ratings when we're talking Ben Simmons. And we were watching the game last night, and there is like moments where like, Ben Simmons like kind of, optically isn't there, kind of disappears into the mesh, the fabric of the team, but it still somehow works. And I'm starting to live with this new paradigm of like the third star conversation, trying to move past and just be like, we don't necessarily need Ben Simmons to be doing much more than this. I think a lot of the conversation, I'm getting ahead of the conversation where that it's like, can Ben Simmons, is that going to be what propels us into championship caliber, real championship caliber stuff? And I think we're already there, and I think it's happening. It's just hard to see, Mike. I think it's just hard to see, and I'm trying to train my eye to see it.
Yeah, and it's hard because he'll go like he went 2 for 5. He does not want to go to the free throw line. So usually, like, you can pretty reliably guess how many field goals he made, and then you can guess his points because he's never going to shoot a 3. He's yet to do. I think he shot 1 3 so far this season,
Under
maybe
duress.
2, and they were like just throw ups. Literally, not that we threw up seeing them, but he threw them up because it was end of shot clock or end of whatever.
Smart to make that
and
clear.
he does not like to go to the free throw line. He does not make free throws. I still am skeptical of the hook shots, the sort of like the running floaters that happen, and when they hit, hey, like it's incredible. He did a very important thing last night, though. Donovan Mitchell, he guarded Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was 5 for 16 from the field. Darius Garland, as great as he was, if you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, you need both Mitchell and Garland to be 30-point dudes. I mean, Garland can be a little bit less, where Donovan Mitchell has been, I think, a top 5 scorer in the NBA this season. If Ben can reliably damage, weaken, shut down the opposing team's one of their best scorers, you can 100% live with the fact that he only shoots the ball 5 times and he only makes 2 of those shots, and they are inefficient shots ultimately that he's putting up. Besides dunks, like when he gets the dunk to the dunker spot and all that stuff. This team is just such an interesting mix. I was flirting with on BetMGM.
Oh my gosh.
A single game parlay of Cavs money line. Actually, probably I was going to take the Cavs line because you don't need the money line. You could do the. I think it was like, -2. You could do that, get a little bit better odds. Donovan Mitchell plus 25 points and something else relating to the Cavs, because I was like, Joe Harris and Seth Curry being out for the game, that could have led to if Royce O'Neal has a bad shooting night, I thought, there's no way that the Nets could put up enough points beyond KD and Kyrie to compete with a Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland-led Cavaliers. And what happened was they showed, this is what, to me, of the 3 games that have happened, the Warriors, Bucks, Cavs, the Bucks one is obviously the most interesting because, I mean, the Nets firmly dominated the Bucks throughout that game. But this game showed me something I hadn't seen, which was that, you had a KD Kyrie game. Both scored 32 points, both highly efficient. KD actually, doing pretty good work from the 3-point line. Kyrie it's got to be his best 3-point shooting game this year, 7 of 11. But you also then didn't have like this, like you didn't need, Seth Curry wasn't there, Joe Harris. You didn't have these role-playing shooters that were just like going 5 for 6 from 3.
Yeah.
What you had was TJ Warren.
TJ Warren, man.
Being maybe the X factor of the NBA this year.
And honestly, like there was a lineup where it was, the big 3 plus Royce and TJ. So having Ben Simmons at the 5, which was, I thought, one of my favorite lineups. That just having that extra, like TJ at 6'8" is, it's just that little bit of height really matters, and it really matters. There's just so many arms on defense. He's just that little bit more size is really helpful. We were talking on the stream, and if you don't know about the stream, that's because you're not in the Discord, so shout out to the Discord, discord.gg/GoogieGuys. All this talk that we've had, I mean, honestly, we've been really just the only people driving this conversation, so I'll aim this in our direction. All the talk about Kuzma is like, are we getting like 80% of, if TJ Warren continues to play at this level, we're getting like basically 4/5 of Kyle Kuzma at this point, right? I mean, like he's been really, really good, and good in all the spots that are like kind of unique and weird. And like we've talked about this, he has kind of this like ability to just like hit a putback, but the putback will be from like 8 feet out, and it's just like this really weird, unconventional.
It's a putback that Ben Simmons kind of tries to do, but has real no clue how to do.
The difference is Ben Simmons will do like a baby hook version of it, where TJ Warren will just like square up and stick it in there. But yeah, it's just like weird, fills up these little holes in the offense, and we've talked about his stabilizing force, yada yada. But anyways, I feel like TJ Warren is we're getting more bubble Warren than not bubble Warren. I just said a bubble Warren.
Well, but even non-bubble Warren before the injuries was awesome. I thought, he had that stretch with Indiana.
Sure, yeah, he said,
where it was, here, I'll urge everyone to do this. Go to NBA.com, go into the game from last night, go into the box score, click on TJ Warren's free throw or field goal attempts, and you'll get the shot plot or the hex map or the shot zones, whichever one you like best. And what's incredibly unique and why he is the X factor. And by the way, this is an official mailbag pod. We have a lot of great email that we're going to get to very, very soon. And some of it is probably going to touch on TJ Warren. Look at his shot chart. There's 2 corner threes in there. There are 2 threes from about like midway on the top of the key. There are 4 jumpers on like the right elbow. There's a shot on the left elbow. There's 2 shots on the baseline. There's actually 3 shots on the baseline on either side of the hoop, and then there's a couple right at the bucket. What is unique about him is, like, particularly in the NBA, is that, like, so many role players get so narrowly defined on what shots they can take on the floor. You are a corner 3-point shooter. You are a dunker, a pick and roll dunker like Nick Claxton. Very few, bench players are afforded the opportunity to even try to take a mid-range shot. And TJ Warren has, over his career, been one of the better mid-range shooters, just like pure scorers, maybe like a sub DeMar DeRozan type over the course of his career. His ability, the fact that he can score from anywhere on the floor, he's expanded his range at the 3-point over the time in his NBA career, and I'm glad to see it's continuing over, makes him very dangerous. And it gives the Nets a specialized weapon that not many teams actually have. Not many teams have the pure scorer off the bench who can do what TJ Warren can do on a consistent basis. And you mentioned this. His height is the differentiating factor between him and, like, the other archetypes like Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford. He's got he can be in more lineups because he's not dependent on just being in the backcourt. He's a front court player as that. And what is really great is TJ Warren with Ben Simmons, again, as you mentioned, because Ben is so deficient as a scorer, but he does everything else, like, extremely well. I think he had 8 assists, right, in the Cavaliers game, that the lack of scoring from Ben Simmons typically could hurt a team, where TJ Warren's just like, dude, I got that. Like, I can do, it's like James Austin Johnson on SNL. He's the guy who does the Trump impression.
Okay.
He does all their impressions now.
You still watch SNL?
It's like, it relieves the pressure on everyone else on that SNL cast, because you've got this guy who can do this amazing. He can do impressions. He can do them all. He does a fantastic Bobby Flay impression. I heard.
Speaking of normie things, did I tell you that I watched? Did I tell you that I watched Avatar 2, the film?
Oh,
the cinematic experience in 3D.
Okay.
I did the 3D thing, everything. We went to Alamo Draft House, Mike, and I had some bevies. It's a bevy kind of place, which was great. Oh, by the way, did you read Bill Gabiri's piece about it? I think you should if you haven't. You missed it, Mike. You're a bad friend.
Was it okay?
No, it was great. So, like, here's the thing. Avatar 2, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, it's the PG-13 catch-all sort of cinematic experience. And if you go into there thinking you're going to see, Dances with Wolves,
Kind of is like dance, isn't it?
That is the parallel that people usually take. But it's the sort of more like anyways, everyone knows Dances with Wolves.
You mean, like, did you see the list of Sight and Sound's top 100 movies of all time? There's the British AFI or whatever it is. They polled critics across the world for the top movies of all time, and the number one movie was this movie called, like, Marianne, 1973. It's about a middle class Dutch woman who's also a prostitute, and it's a very slow burn movie.
Sure.
Never seen it, and number one movie of all time. It's not that. It's not.
It's not that. It is
not
not
about a middle class
Marianne,
woman who's a prostitute.
1973. That it is not. But you should read it because, anyways, the thrust of it is that
Avatar 2 is way better than whatever that movie could be.
It's
instead of a woman smoking a cigarette on her kitchen table, this movie's got some bump to it.
The thrust of it is that, like, James Cameron movie making style is that it's like equal parts sort of moralistic hippie kind of, like, in this case that's the version, like in Titanic it's like, half a love story and then just half like gore
disaster,
people dying real, and then every other, like, there's a lot of other examples of that, but and in this case it was sort of similar, and I think it's, I think it delivers. I think it delivered. Like, if that's what you want, if you want my stamp of approval, you've got it. Okay, and I know you do.
Let's do this. Quick break. Coming back. Let's just hit our emails. Let's, like, dive right in. And we're back, Brian.
Michael, hit me. Next up, that's Boy Sean, good friend. The Nature Boy, Sean Goodfriend, a good friend of the show. He's got a heck of an email here, so buckle up. Hey guys, TJ, Yuta, Royce, we're amazing pickups. Makes me think it may have been Sean Marks's second best off season. Rank these: 2016 signed Lynn Booker Harris, trade for Karis LeVert, draft Whitehead. 2017 Tyler Zeller, trade. He's got all of them. But anyways, we're not going to go through the whole.
I love the first move in 2017. It must have been like the first thing that happened because it is trade sign Tyler Zeller. Actually, I think that would like happen late in the period.
There are some names on here. It's good to go down memory lane here.
So what are we saying is the number one off season? Is it the fact that you traded for D'Lo, you got DeMarre Carroll, and you drafted Jared Allen? Oh no, KD Kyrie, of course.
But here's the thing: can I say that KD Kyrie is that really a Sean Marks like strategy? Like, I mean, so he set the precedent,
right?
That they wanted to sign on. So okay, whatever system that made them want to go to the Nets. I don't know. I kind of squint and look at that as like I think Kyrie brought his friend to the team that he wanted to go to. They had it's a cool place to live, so on and so forth. I don't necessarily. If we're giving out accolades, I don't super attribute to some extent. Obviously, you gotta. But when I think of like real GM-manship, I think of winning on the fringes. And to that point, I gotta say, I think like there's so many guys on this roster right now that I just am excited to watch play. I don't think there's ever been this many players that I just like, and wanna see grow.
Yeah, I do agree. The work done in 16, 17, and 18 led to 19, right? Like the work of Joe Harris, Dinwiddie, getting LeVert, getting Jared Allen, getting D'Lo, and making that team interesting. The trade for Crabbe, I think anytime you trade for Allen Crabbe, you immediately throw away that offseason as the worst possible thing in the world. So all of that led to 19. I agree with you, like how Marks deserves credit, but to credit... I mean, but it's also like one of those things where he did get Kyrie and KD, and so that has to be the winning offseason. And they also drafted Nick Claxton that year. They did trade for Taurean Prince, but they picked up Nwaba, who was a good player until he wasn't for this team. Low-key 2020, kind of like Jeff Green, getting Shamet, getting Bruce Brown.
Hold on. Nwaba got hurt. Nwaba was off and running. He was going to be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Low-key that was a good move. That could have been something we would have been celebrating.
I totally forgot about Wilson Chandler too. My God, there's so many guys who it's really jogging my memory.
It definitely reads of like when you're looking at an actor's IMDb and they do a bunch of good indie movies to start. And you're like, oh, that was a good decision. That was a good decision. It's like, let's say like Ben Affleck. Not that he did indie movies, but he made some good decisions. And then it just turned like 2021. I think sure Patty Mills is good, but like LaMarcus Aldridge was kind of like
is the comparison to M. Night Shyamalan? Is it starts out on a low budget, but had some celebrity clout.
That's a great yes. and then it just gets
it got a little hinky.
The Village. I
really like The Village. I'm just going to come out and say it. I enjoy it. It's a little bit crazy. It's a crazy movie, but
I hated it. Did you see the trailer for his new one?
I hated it. I did, and I'm going to say it. I like people. I like M. Night Shyamalan because I like guys with conflicted, topsy-turvy film careers. I don't like a straight. I don't want a linear. Just Steven Spielberg. Just win no matter what.
Stacking dubs.
That's boring for me. I want some L's. Give me some L's. Give me some conflict.
Here's the thing about the 2022 offseason, to respond to Sean Goodfriend's email. Marks was back in his bag, baby. Back to, hey, I'm going to sign TJ Warren. I don't know the source of it. But, I mean, it seemed like he just wanted to kind of play in Brooklyn, which great for. But the Edmund Sumner-Yuta signings, low-key important. Obviously, Yuta's probably high-key important at this point. I've been a Royce defender from the moment I've seen him play for the Nets. He's had an interesting relationship with the fan base. People are constantly comparing to Bruce Brown, which we've done ourselves. You kind of are forced to compare Bruce Brown and Royce O'Neal, but yet I think what Royce brings to the table is a very good skill set. I wish they could have both, but I like Royce O'Neal a lot. Markieff Morris isn't on the Sean Goodfriend list of moves. Markieff is neither positive nor negative. This is just getting Yuta as opposed to getting the Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, James Johnson's, Paul Millsap's. That's where we need to be. That's where this team needed, and Utah's been a key piece.
It is night and day, these two strategies. Just 2021 and 2022. You go Patty Mills, Aldridge, Griffin, James Johnson, Millsap. Just a who's who of ex-stars and journeyman veteran guys. In James Johnson case, and well, Patty Mills not a journeyman, but that a veteran presence. It's just night and day. Between then and now.
We thought that we were riding a rocket ship to the championship at that point.
What is the 2021 offseason in M. Night Shyamalan movie lexicon?
Okay, so like what?
It's the most.
Is Signs. It's not Signs, but is Signs before The Village?
Signs is before, so it's probably The Village. That's probably Village.
It's The Village because Signs was pretty good, right?
People were still, buzzing off of Sixth Sense at that point. He had a long leash to do a lot of weird stuff, and so people were like, yeah, I think Signs is good because he's so good.
Are you an Unbreakable?
Oh, it could be Unbreakable. Unbreakable is bad. Capital B bad.
Yeah.
It could be Unbreakable.
But Unbreakable comes early in the tenure.
Unbreakable has I watched it maybe like a year ago again, and sorry, this is you're checking your phone now. This is
I know
too
my
much
mom's just telling me that my son
that we have to stop talking about Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you don't know, my mom listens to all of our episodes live, and then she's actually the puppet master.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that.
I'm not going to go into my whole diatribe. Well, come to the VIP episodes on Patreon for that. But next up is
coming up.
Cheer boy. We got Diharo. He pronounces it at the bottom. Diaro, thank you for reaching out. I think the game versus the Cavs today proved that we are undoubtedly a contender as presently constructed. But, all caps, I still think the Nets need to trade for a backup big and or a stretch four. My question to you guys is, who do you think are the best trade candidates out there for the pieces we have? Picks, Patty, Cam, Seth/Joe, Daron, etc. Big supporter from South Africa. Go Nets. Let's go Nets. Thank you. What?
Is that your
African
accent?
That's just a South African accent. I don't know. Is that not? Was I way off?
I don't know. Apparently, it's one of the hardest accents.
It is tough.
To pull
I
off,
watched.
I appreciated your effort.
I watched Matt Damon talk about that on a YouTube short. So I gave it my all. But anyways, what do you think, Mike? This is really your department, so I defer to you.
I am verging closer and closer to don't trade anyone vibes, because when you're winning 9 in a row. Before that, you had won 4 in a row, and then you lost to the Celtics, and now you're back to winning 9 in a row. You are an emerging power in the Eastern Conference. You've beaten some of the best teams in the NBA. The consistency, the vibes are all perfect and great. There's room for growth on this team. Their ceiling is not yet. They're not scraping their ceiling, and the team has had such a topsy-turvy ride since Kyrie and KD signed with your Brooklyn Nets. I'm beginning to go deeper into the camp of they should just. This is the crew, and sure, if there's like a buyout guy or there's someone you can add to the bench who's a center, a big that can fit into your teamwork or whatever. Baloney. I support that. If I'm going to answer the question though, because I'm here to service our fan base. I've talked about this before. Seth Curry is the guy who becomes and feels the most expendable. His last year of his contract is right now. He only makes about $9 million a year. He, as good as he is and as great of a shooter as he is, I think you could, if you flip him for that stretchy 4-5 type who can play the 5 at times, like the Robert Covingtons of your world, whoever that may be, you begin to feel more well-rounded about your roster. The thing is, again, that I like, it's just hard. Like, I wouldn't, unless if Seth Curry is a not a positive or not a minus in the locker room, he's just kind of a non-factor. I just wouldn't trade anyone. I would really, unless if like the perfect deal that that comes along, Like, I understand Kuzma. We talk about Kuzma a lot. I love Kyle Kuzma. You and I talked about trading for him and maybe trading Ben Simmons for him. It's just more and more. It's like, how much do you really want to incorporate another dude onto this team?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I also think, and to get like human brains are so we have goldfish memory, like we really do, and I think it's right now everyone's healthy for the first time, and it feels like 15 years. And when that's the case, it's like, oh, we have way too many good players. Like we can consolidate, and and that happened like within 2 weeks. Ever since TJ Warren came back, it's actually funny. I was looking at that list from Sean Goodfriend, good friend of the pod, and I do feel like Sean Marks has finally like hit on exactly what he's been wanting in Yuta and TJ Warren. That it's a dragon he's been chasing from the Wilson Chandler, James Johnson, Paul Millsap days of this like. I would say more of like a combo forward than a traditional stretch four or something. It's sort of this like new kind of archetype of something more between 3 and 4 than 4 and 5. And that's what it kind of feels like for me with TJ Warren and Yuta. And having both of those guys at the same time, being able to like swap 2 super tall like kind of wings effectively, it's just really nice. And if you for whatever reason you miss like last night we're missing both Seth Curry and Joe Johnson, but didn't skip a beat because we had that amount of backup to shore up the offense. And then if you start trading those guys, then the nights where Seth and Joe are missing, it becomes a little bit more of a drag. So backup big, I get it. It's been a bugaboo the entire season, but like I don't know, it's becoming less and less of a thing. But Mike, we gotta have an Embiid stopper, okay? We gotta have an Embiid stopper. So all that goes out the window.
And I'll say one more thing. I was listening to the Daily Ding with Dave DeFore and Mark Schindler on the Athletic NBA show, and Mark Schindler, who's like I watch the video, I actually analyze basketball type of guy, as opposed to us who were vibes. He made a really good point that I just hadn't really thought about, was the fact that the Nets put up the amount of points that they did against the Cavs and the Bucks, who are 2 of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and part of what I worry about with the Nets, if I can insert the Smelts worry moment, the moment to drink, because I worry about something.
Yep,
is that the Nets are a highly efficient team because of how good they are at shooting the ball in terms of KD and Kyrie. They are unstoppable, but they are taking inefficient shots ultimately in the analytical framework. But the Nets are becoming more and more of an outlier in terms of like how they score and how they continue to just put up points.
Yeah.
And now you add TJ Warren to the mix, who is another guy who bucks the analytics. He says, buck those analytics. I'm going to take my mid-range shots and I'm going to hit them. More and more, the Nets are living outside the boundaries of what is expected of an NBA offense. And what did they shoot last night? They had 57% shooting, 60% from 3. This is the team. The team is proving itself to be, they take kind of inefficient shots, but they are extremely efficient at the shots they hit.
Mm-hmm.
That they take, not that they hit. Everyone's efficient at the shots that they hit.
There you go.
I smart.
Nice.
Next up,
that's Sure boy Kyle Williams. Kyle says, "What's up? What's up to you, Kyle? Just wanted to ask if you think Jacques Vaughn should be front runner for Coach of the Year. Personally, I think it's a no-brainer. Can we also just take a second, Mike, to just do a little jig on the grave of the whole Ime Udoka like part of the Twitter sphere or whatever? I mean, like truly, we don't. If we don't do it, nobody else will for us, okay, Mike? But not only did we just come out of the gates advocating for Jacques Vaughn to get the gig, he's absolutely crushed it. Could Ime Udoka be doing a better job than this? I don't think so. Not in my wildest dreams.
No, he couldn't have.
So, and I also think and this is something we talked about a little bit last night. I think it had to be an inside hire just because this team has gone through so much weirdness. You have to I think he had to been sitting. Somebody had to have been seeing it from behind the scenes and know, okay, this is what I would do differently. Because if you just come in and be do the thing where it's I'm going to try to connect with Kyrie or KD or whatever, and it's just it's starting from scratch is just hard with this crew and what they've gone through in the last couple of years. So I think it was important that it was an inside hire. I'll just add that little bit.
But we say all that, and all that's true. We just have to be. We can't give Sean Marks and Josai too much credit because they wanted to hire Udoka. They were planning to hire him.
Fair
And the
point.
reason why they didn't was because of the controversy around Kyrie, plus what would have been.
And
the
who
one
could have
around
seen that
Udoka.
coming? It was so weird that they let that like news even out that they were they were like testing the PR response to the impending Ime Udoka hiring. It's such a strange strategy.
I wonder if it was. I mean, I don't put it past the Nets to leak that or that getting leaked from the Nets. It was almost impossible for not to leak because the Nets had to contact the Celtics to say, "Will you let him out of his contract?" His agent, Udoka's agent, like they have to have a conversation, and the agent's motivated to put it out there to make it seem like his client is hireable immediately.
Fair.
There's a lot of people that were. Everyone was talking. That's why we knew it immediately, pretty much. But yeah, I agree with you. Is Jacques coach of the year candidate? I think he is a top 3 candidate right now. It's interesting because the Celtics have also been wobbling a little bit, but Joe Mazzulla is a candidate because the Celtics #1, and he is a new coach. And people love this version of the Boston Celtics. I can see them. Willie Green of the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans is so good, and they've been so impactful. And what's exciting about this trio of coaches, if you put them all together, are, can I say it's like, there was a lot of racism in the NBA in terms of who could be a head coach. And those 3 head coaches don't look like a lot of the people that came before them in the NBA. And you give people opportunities, you're going to see that there's a lot of skill out there to be had. And it's a lot of like former players, and like particularly for Jacques Vaughn, there's going to be some big profile about him at some point.
Yeah.
Because think about his path of always being the bridesmaid. He was Julia Roberts in My Best Friend's Wedding for so long. He had his head coaching chance for a bad Orlando Magic team. And then he was always the bridesmaid, and he was given opportunities. He was the interim, twice?
Yeah.
Until they officially got the job. And he is crushing it. He is so beyond crushing it that, again, all those people that wanted Ime Udoka should maybe just resign from Twitter because they've been bodied.
You got bodied. I'm going to dovetail. We don't need to do an intro because it's overlapping. It's Jay Cruz.
Yeah, I know. Hot take.
A.K.A. Bird's Eye View from the Dirty Streams, which you guys don't know about unless you're in the Discord. So he says, what's more likely, Jacques Vaughn as Coach of the Year or KD as MVP? Mike, one or the other. You got to choose. I think Jacques Vaughn. I gotta give it to him. Jacques
Vaughn as the Koi. Yes, because KD. So I want to ask you this question. I'm going to turn this around to you. Next up, it's your boy. I'm going to email you.
It's an email from Mike Smeltz. Okay, let me read it.
That's me. There was some chatter from I think it was Tim Bontemps did his I don't know what you call it, his straw poll of the NBA MVP candidacy.
It sounds very informal. Sounds incredibly
some people
informal.
What's that?
It sounds very informal. Go on. Sorry.
And some people were saying that KD could not win MVP because he requested a trade in July. And then Eddie Gonzalez, rightly so, tweeted out 2 images, one of Kobe Bryant requesting a trade and then him winning MVP within the same 12-month span. Do you think that by the end of this season, if KD continues to do what he is doing, which is essentially having one of the greatest pure shooting seasons in the history of the NBA, that he will be docked points because he requested a trade in July?
This really is a great summation of why the MVP is it's so dumb and full of projection and bias that would even factor in to people's appraisal of the game, the season that you're having on the court is just it's such a weird, bizarre.
It's the Oscars of the NBA. It's like the thing. Sometimes the best does not get rewarded.
I don't like
And Kevin Durant is not Roman Polanski. He's someone who's less.
that whole line of thinking should serve as an indictment for the award itself. Like that it's like we're just taking in like news clippings from the off season into into consideration. It's so strange.
But I mean, it's the problem. The MVP is voted on by the media, right? I think fully and completely. And so it matters, like the perception of people, and like Jordan should have won MVP every year. He was, when he was the king of the NBA, but he didn't because they got bored with it. Jokic maybe should win it again this year, but he's not because, he's won it 2 years in a row. Giannis should have won it another time, but whatever. Like all this, it is humans voting for this thing, and a human decision of requesting a trade. I understand. It's a very media thing to be like, oh, there's no shot in hell that Kevin Durant could win MVP because he requested a trade. Like, how could he be the most valuable player when he did not want to be on the team that he's currently on? But we all have lizard brains. We don't remember this stuff. In March, when people are voting for MVP, are they really going to be holding on to the fact that KD requested a trade in July of the year prior? If he's putting up his nums, which he's putting up, his five assists, 7 rebounds, and 30 points on 56% from the field. If he's putting up those nums, and the Nets are the number one team, if the Nets are the number one team in the East, and KD's doing what he's doing, KD should win MVP, right? Like, isn't it that easy at this point?
Yeah, but I mean,
it should be that easy.
They've revealed their hand a little bit that's that they've introduced that strange issue as a factor into docking him points, as you say. It's already belies the fact that they don't want to give KD another MVP. They just don't.
It is a long season, and the Nets could not. Maybe they're not going to win every game for the rest of the year, and maybe they kind of fall back a little bit and are just like the 5th best team in the East with a very competitive Eastern Conference. If the Nets are the number one team in the East and they continue to be very, very good, playing at some high level, like around 65% winning percentage, whatever it is, 70%, and Kevin Durant is doing what he is doing and is uninjured throughout the rest of the year, he's going to be a top 3 MVP candidate because he will be a former MVP, a top 5 scorer in the NBA, highly efficient, on the best team in the Eastern Conference. If all those factors align, him requesting a trade in July will not matter. Yes, Brian.
But in that world, and with all that success that you mentioned, I think it's more likely that Jacques Vaughn gets Coach of the Year than KD gets MVP, to Kyle's original question.
It is like Jordan Peele. This is a movie heavy pod. It's like Jordan Peele winning for best screenplay, but not for best director on Get Out.
Right. It's exactly like that. Last but not least, that's Cheer Boy Ryan Newman, a.k.a. DBronx1414 in the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. He says, hello. How necessary do you believe the previous failures of this team and its stars were to the recent success we are seeing now? For KD, I think back to his underwhelming playoff performance in the sweep, the trade request that went nowhere, partly because of that playoff performance. For Ben, his journey from being thrown under the bus for the playoff loss to Atlanta, his trade request struggling to get on the court when he finally was traded, and then his awful start to the season. And finally, Kyrie, I'll skip listing his journey to this point since we're all too familiar with it. I'm just not sure Kyrie and KD willingly buy into this defensive scheme and abandon their reliance on iso ball without being force-fed multiple slices of humble pie. And for Ben, he's picked himself off the mat more than once this season and has shown more resilience as a net than I saw from him in Philly. Am I monomyth pilled, or is there some validity to this narrative for the 2022-2023 Brooklyn Nets? Love Ryan Newman. Love you back. Mike, did we have to go through this? Do we have to traverse through hell and back to get to the point where we are now, enjoying this 9-game winning streak? Did we have to do it?
We are where we are because of where we've been.
Yeah.
The path that we are on right now is only because of the steps that we took in the past.
It's a hero's journey, Mike. Full throw.
Yeah. It's a real Joseph Campbell archetype here with they had to. Yes, they all the badness that happened has brought them to where they are now. I don't know. The humble pie thing, I think Kyrie, oddly enough, has been more impacted by the humble pie than Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant has like never really done anything wrong. And so hasn't really had to change anything he's had to do. Kevin Durant has just always shown an ability to do what is best for the team for the most part over the course of his career. He's always been a malleable player to fit into different systems, and he always kind of figures it out, where Kyrie, if he's playing the wrong way, can damage a team on some level. And what is happening, and the Nets talk about it all the time, they're keeping it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS.
Yep, we're doing it.
That's what they're doing it. So, are you monomyth pilled D-Bronx 1414? Sure, maybe.
I think we all are. I mean, we humans, we construct these narratives, and it's important. Driving force in our lives. I think the Celtics sweep was a very important data point for everybody, collectively, organizationally, but especially the 2-star players, to be like, actually, we can't just be agents of chaos for 80 games out of the year and then slap it together. What?
I don't know. There was still some chaos in between the sweep and then this 9-game winning streak.
That's true.
I don't know if Kyrie thinks that he can't be an agent of chaos. I think, however it got out that Kyrie was supporting an anti-Semitic film, however that news kind of matriculated to Rolling Stone, I think ultimately that has had some impact on Kyrie, his mentality, what he's deciding to promote and focus on, which is helpful. Because, like, the only thing that's going to derail this team, there's 2 things. It's injury, and it's another Kyrie scandal, right? Both injury is something you can't control. The Kyrie scandal thing is ultimately something that he can control, but feels like it's very hard for him.
It's a tenuous grasp.
To manage.
It's a tenuous grasp. You hope he keeps it together.
So I worry. I'm like a duck on a lake. Like I'm
Seem
slowly
chill,
rolling along,
but your legs are crazy under the surface,
moving fast,
frenetic energy.
I've got some anxiety about, like, it is a little early to be peaking for this team because there's a lot of months ahead. There's a lot of seasonal affected disorder to be had.
Yeah.
You remember when James Harden wanted to leave Brooklyn because he didn't like the weather?
Yeah.
Remember that was the storyline? And then he went to Philly, which is
cold. That was just there. Still cold.
Great show today.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. They can find us on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, but you probably want to be on Discord. Again, discord.gg/glueguys. Yeah, and find us on the front page of the New York Times. Mike, thanks for having me. Say goodbye.